All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Oldham County Board of Education. It's August 23rd, 2021. We are at the Arvin Education Center. The first item of business, Superintendent, is to approve the agenda. Any corrections or additions, sir?
There's no changes to the agenda.
All right, motion to approve the agenda. Made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. I am going to ask Lisa Paris to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have one action item at this early point on our agenda. Superintendent, would you talk to us about that action item, please, sir?
Sure. Action item AA is approval of a resolution authorizing and approving the execution of a contract, lease, and option with the Oldham County Schools District Finance Corporation.
Thank you.
Dwight Salisbury is already here and read the resolution and answer any questions from the board. And can answer.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Radford. Anything to add, Mr. Salisbury?
No, ma'am. This is just the second part of, like we talked about in the Finance Corporation meeting, this is the second part. This is a resolution that the board has to approve. So if there are no questions, I'll just go ahead and read it real quick.
Let me...
Thankfully, it's shorter.
Sure. Let's read the resolution first, sir.
Sure. This is a resolution of the Board of Education of the Oldham County School District authorizing and approving the execution of a lease agreement with the Oldham County School District Finance Corporation and any further necessary instruments, approving certain architect's plans for the construction of a certain school building project, approving the execution of continuing disclosure procedures and the execution of tax compliance procedures, and approving the plan of financing the cost of said project. And again, this is for the bonds for the Buckner Elementary and East Oldham Middle School project.
Excellent. And so your recommendation, Dr. Radford?
Yes, I recommend that the board approve the resolution.
All right. Motion to approve, please. Made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. Thank you, Dwight.
Thank you all.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
So, as you all know by now, we adjusted the agenda to meet some special circumstances. And the reality is we have frequently had requests to hold public expression earlier in the evening rather than late in the evening. So this is not anything all that unusual, but there is a reception following the board meeting, and that reception is to honor 30 plus of our staff members, our teachers, who are receiving a Pyramid Award from the Oldham County Education Foundation. And that is a big deal, as I've said to some of you in my emails, and we really want to honor those teachers. So it made sense with a caterer and so forth to do our recognitions at the close of the meeting, followed by the reception, which therefore put our public expression early on the agenda. I do feel like this is a good opportunity also to share with you that public expression is really a privilege, and
yeah, it's a right. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. First Amendment. Yeah. Go on somewhere.
if you will allow me to finish. It's a privilege, and actually in the state of Kentucky, boards of education are not required to have a public expression period of time, and many districts do not. But Oldham County always has, and we welcome... We welcome constituents to share with us. And so, having said all that, We do find ourselves limiting public expression today because of the pyramid awardees and the reception. So for this portion of the meeting, we have limited the total amount of time for public expression to 30 minutes, and that will probably only get us through about 10 speakers. The board has agreed to stay to the conclusion of the meeting if there are persons who have not been able to share with us. And so I hope you will find that agreeable, and I appreciate your support. Let's begin. Lisa Paris. Oh, Lisa, give me just a second. We do need to read our policy governing public expression. Many of you have heard this before, but some of you may not have. So I'm going to ask Mr. Dodson to read the policy, please.
The board will designate a portion of the meeting to hear public expression comment regarding areas under the board's jurisdictions. Persons wishing to speak shall sign in with the register and review the policy on making public comment. The board chairperson or designee will read aloud the public expression guidelines. Speakers should register by signing the sign-in sheet upon their arrival to the meeting. The board will call upon speakers in the order they were signed in. Speakers shall not exceed the time limit allotted for the board. The board will allot time based on the number of individuals registered to speak.
Larry, let me pause here. What's the pleasure of the board?
2 or 3, whatever you want.
3 minutes is fine with us, so we will use that as our guideline. And Mr. Dodson, if you'll serve as our timekeeper, please.
Public criticism of individual staff members and individual board members is prohibited. Concerns about individual staff performance should be addressed with the staff members directly or his or her immediate supervisor or the board chairperson, respectively. Public expression is not a question and answer period. Any question expressed by the speaker will be noted with directives for appropriate administration to follow up. The board, however, reserves the right to respond when appropriate or necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Dodson.
Can I add one thing?
Please.
This is not a heckling session for the person speaking. Each individual, no matter what your beliefs is, has a right to be respected, and that's what we respect. Or that's why we listen to you. So if somebody disagrees with Lisa, that's your prerogative, but it's not your prerogative to speak out and yell and taunt her, and vice versa. That's it.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, Ms. Paris, let's begin.
Thank you very much for allowing us to speak. I think it says a lot about your character and your commitment to children, that you were listening to your community, even in these volatile times when nobody really has ever done this before, and we don't quite know exactly where we're going from here every day, sometimes minute by minute. So thank you. I know you guys get a thankless job when you don't get paid to do it, and that means a lot to me. And what I would like to talk about is the item that's on the agenda about changing the definitions of certain job descriptions. And I believe that the guidance counselor is one of those positions, and I believe the word guidance is being removed from that title of position. I saw that somewhere on the internet. And I just would like to say, please leave the word guidance in guidance counselor, because I think it makes it easier and more approachable for children if the word guidance is part of that job description. And counselor is kind of a scary word to kids, especially if they've ever had to deal with a lawyer or the, judicial system. And I don't want to use up any more time. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paris. Eric Davis. Mr. Davis, welcome this afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Eric Davis. As a student, I was a Crestwood Cougar, South Oldham Middle School Trojan, and a 2004 graduate of South High. My wife followed a similar path, albeit on the north side, and I certainly won't hold that too much against her. Professionally, I've been a teacher in this district at East, a principal at Kenwood Station, and now proudly serve as the Director of Student Services. Now, children, whom I love more than life itself, are blessed to attend this school district. The Davis family is Oldham County, but today I am worried. I'm a worried community member, although not probably because of what many will think. I stand here tonight not to talk about masks or quarantines or CRT or any other topic that has caused such devastating division. I have opinions on those things, sure, just like everyone else, but tonight I'm here to warn us all about division itself. I've been the subject of or CC'd on emails sent to my colleagues that have been filled with profane, borderline abusive language. I've watched hardworking teachers, administrators, and school nurses drug through the mud on social media at such an alarming rate that I deleted every social media platform I have. Just tonight, a man who does not know me, who has never spoken to me, walked by and told me I should quit. He knows nothing about me. He doesn't even know my name until I stood up here. We live in a screenshot world where a human being is judged not by their merit, but on just a snippet of their personal or professional life. Beyond all of that, my greatest concern is the example that we are setting for our children. We've substituted empathy and grace for anger and the unrealistic expectation of perfection. In a society that centralizes negative news for the sake of likes and retweets, I hope the adults in Oldham County can show what respectful discourse and understanding looks like, even when the outcome is not what we want. It is okay, even beneficial, to disagree with one another when deciding how best to educate our children. But it is not okay to do it through hatred and vitriol. Tonight, I am reminded that my family is blessed to live in this county. I am thankful that my children do not face the same trauma as their peers in Afghanistan or Syria. They are loved by their teachers, supported by their administrators, and surrounded by the community of people who largely back this public system. For the administrators and teachers standing in the back of this room, you deserve much more than we can give you. That is the Oldham County that I grew up in and that I've called home for nearly 30 years. And that is the Oldham County that I am committed to fostering every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Well said, Mr. Davis. Denise Watts Wilson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Last meeting, we were informed of the vacancy on our board and advised to seek the council of board members on the what was required, what we're looking for in our replacement. When I asked the question, I was informed that we're looking for someone with no agenda. Unfortunately, that does not sit well with me. It does not, because there should be an agenda. That agenda is the Kentucky Constitutional Oath of Office that every board member, every elected officer takes. I'd like to read that today. I do solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky so long as I continue a citizen thereof. I will faithfully execute to the best of my ability the office of Oldham County School Board member according to law. I do further solemnly swear or affirm that since the adoption of the present Constitution, I, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state, nor out of it, nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons. We snicker at that because that is so unexpected. It doesn't happen because we live by this oath. We don't have to say it, but we still do. Nor have I acted as second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help me God. Every person elected to a Board of Education shall, before assuming the duties of his or her office, take the following oath. In addition to that constitutional oath, State of Kentucky, County of Oldham, board member's name, being duly sworn, says that he or she is eligible under the law to serve as a member of the Board of Education, and that he or she will not, while serving as a member of such board, become interested directly or indirectly in any contact with or claim against the board, and that he or she will not in any way influence the hiring or appointment of district employees. I believe that doesn't include school board members, accepting the hiring of the superintendent or school board attorney. What Constitution are we supporting? Let me read you the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. The preamble to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We, the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, grateful to Almighty God for the civil, political, and religious liberties we enjoy, and invoking the continuance of these blessings, do ordain and establish this Constitution. The Supreme Court of the
Ms. Denise, I
three.
apologize.
That's okay.
We're out of time. Well, that is indeed the oath that we take, Ms. Denise.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to move on. Cassidy Stocker. Cassidy, are you here? Hi. I apologize, but our audience is taking up time that really is your time.
Officer, can you have him removed?
This board is ridiculous. This board would rather bring in a caterer and split it for
Cassidy.
Hello, I am very nervous right now. My name is Cassidy Stocker. I am 13 years old, and I have brain cancer, and I am currently on active chemo. I am really, really grateful to be back in schools. Thank you guys so much for the mask mandate that has allowed me to be back in schools. When I was stuck at home for a year, I became so antisocial because I wouldn't talk to anyone. I didn't want to be with anyone. And I hated it. And now that I can be back in schools, I'm starting to become social again, and I'm really grateful for that. Even though I've never had COVID, it has affected my life in so many ways. I can no longer see the same nurse in the evenings at the hospital because the ER at night is so overrun with sick kids. 3 weeks ago, I waited in the parking lot for 3 hours before I was turned away because they didn't want me in there with a bunch of sick kids. And just today, the nurse was so rushed to get to her other patients that she didn't even want to take the time to access my port, so she had to stick me in my hand, which scares me more. In the last 3 years, cancer has stolen so much from me. I had to switch schools so I'd have access to a nurse. It's taken field hockey from me, and dance, and theater. It stole sleepovers and birthday parties. It even stole my hair. But now that I'm back in school, I feel like I've finally taken back my life. You are helping me take back my life. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Cassidy. Well said, Cassidy. Shannon.
I'm very proud of you. We know that masks aren't on the agenda, and so we are not here today to talk about the science or the ethics of masks. We are here today for much the same reason I think that Mr. Davis was here.
We are here to say thank you. We know the decision was not an easy one. We know that no matter what decision you made, that you were destined to make half the people upset. This is the first time that we have taken the risk of coming out to speak, because it is this important to us that you understand how your decision changes the lives of medically fragile children like my Cassidy. The field of medicine has been my backbone my whole life. I have a bachelor's degree in learning disabilities from Northwestern, a master's in neurobiology, and I completed medical school, but did not practice because I was a patient myself for 7 years. All of that paled in comparison to the pain that I felt and that my family experienced over the course of the last year when our daughter was diagnosed with cancer during a pandemic. But because of your recent mask mandate, her oncology team, and only because of your mandate, her oncology team unanimously approved her to return to school, and after 518 days of isolation at home, she and her 11-year-old brother were able to do something that every child in this state should be able to do, and that is to attend public school safely. So thank you. Thank you for making my Cassidy a priority. Thank you for making our medically fragile a priority.
Thank you, Shannon. Dr. Jason McNabb. Welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to also thank you for following CDC recommendations and going with the mask so we can try to return to a normal situation. I guess really I'm talking about the mask, but it's probably really more about the disinformation that's being spread around. Last month I was here and we heard from so many people that were spreading so much disinformation that they didn't even know. Everybody thinks that they're an expert. This whole room thinks that they're experts, but they're not. Nobody.
Oh, excuse me.
The science has to be interpreted by experts in these fields, not by common lay people.
Hold that thought, Dr. McNabb. Okay. If you all will please just show Dr. McNabb the same respect that I know he will show everybody else at the podium.
I know one Crestwood physician came and gave a study, but what she didn't tell anybody, was that this study was funded by 3 billionaires and a religious organization, and it was written by an economist, not a scientist in any manner. It was cherry-picked data. The regressions used in it were questionable at best, and she didn't even recognize anything with a p-value. Now, if you don't understand what regressions and p-values are, you can't interpret data. You can't make those judgment calls. It has to be done by experts. Not one physician in our community, not a house mom or a dad or anybody else in our community is not an expert. This data, how are any of these people here even going to hold a candle to the CDC, the NIH, the WHO, or our health department? Those are experts. That's who you should rely on for the information that you make these judgments on. I know that this one physician is wanting to get up there and use the Board of Education as a springboard to spread a political agenda. And all that's happening really is just sowing disinformation in our community, and it's putting our community at risk. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dr. McNabb. Zach Dunham, and that might not be right.
I've practiced, so it's about 3 minutes. So I'll get to my point. Clearly, statistics and facts do not matter. Fear has replaced reason and rational. And what have we gained from all of this? First, We have abused children, needless muzzling them, destruction of their social participation and development, and lower academic accomplishment. Phobia is impressed upon them in their early formative years. Second, clearly we have a greatly divided country all the way to our community. And third, we have a great loss of individual rights and liberties. Here in Oldham, where are we headed prior to Monday of your August 9th meeting? We were headed back to normalcy. We were back to a community where there was a choice to remain in fear or not, to be a free people, to make our own free choice without government reprisal or mandate. We were headed to a fulfilling school year. I'm sorry, in fact, the future was looking so much brighter here. People were coming to Oldham to escape lunacy left behind them, thinking there was a firmer ground of sanity in this community. Instead, we have forced mandates, badgered children, forced fear even on those with medical exemptions, segregation, and moving to apartheid over the larger population, forced testing. Who tests healthy people? And some small, though influential, government groups can't resist. We're looking for leaders. That's y'all. There is an agenda that is not for the best interests of our country, families, and individuals. It's eating at the core of our founding principles as Americans. We're here to say no, to stop this lunacy, especially when there's wrong decisions impacting our most important part of our lives. To stop this continuation of wrong decisions, going down the wrong road, the wrong direction, and destroying our country unless people like us come up here and take a stand. We stand for the freedom of individuals, their autonomy of self, for one to make their own health and life decisions that are best determined by them, not bureaucrats, not experts, because look what experts get us. We get recessions, we get homelessness, we get hungry people, we get joblessness. Experts. Millions of people are supposed to die. They were wrong. Wrong! So moving on. So, do you remember those days when we can make our own decisions? We stand for the ending of harassment of those who think differently than those consumed by this fear. Yes to one nation, not segregation, not apartheid. We stand for the ability to make a free choice and live one's life. We choose no fear, and truly will return to normalcy.
Thank you, Mr. Dunham. Leslie Allen.
What was that name, Joyce?
Leslie Allen.
Hello. Is it okay if I take this down?
Yes.
Just so I can be heard. Okay. So thank you all. First of all, I want to lead with that. I want to say I hope that I can convey this message with love and grace. All right, but today I do stand before you as a concerned parent of 2 middle school kids, and their education is being jeopardized. My son is in the 8th grade. He takes 10th grade math. So being in school to learn information that will go toward his high school GPA is incredibly important. It's amazing how quickly this conversation and drastically it's changed just from the day before our first day of school. As parents, we were told that we get to decide our child's risk and if they're going to attend with a mask or not. It was voted by the board, first no mask, and that vote was retracted and masks were voted necessary in order to keep our kids in school. That's what all of you said. That was the backing of why you sent our kids back and did not give us the choice. Now, as of last Friday, it's my understanding that there were roughly 300 kids quarantined. So hearing you all repeatedly in that meeting say over and over that these masks are necessary to keep kids in school didn't turn out to be true. If these masks are effective, and I would greatly caution anyone from making that statement because you would actually be in violation of FDA law. I'm gonna read, and this is actually the emergency use authorization in regards to COVID, and it says that regarding surgical masks, this product is not labeled in such a manner that it would misrepresent the product's intended use. The labeling must not state or imply that this product is intended for antimicrobial or antiviral protection, or is for use such as infection prevention and reduction. Why is that in place? It's in place so that we protect the public from false marketing, period. So these kids that have this sense of protection, that are immunocompromised, this is not protecting them. Sorry. I'm trying. I'm just so passionate. I would never in a million years be standing before a board talking. Okay, so if we go based on the idea that these masks are effective, why are these kids continuing to be quarantined due to possible exposures? We have been told the board is basing your quarantine policy on the Kentucky Department of Education, and they're getting their guidance from the CDC. But the CDC's website, and I quote, unvaccinated persons who tested antibody positive within 3 months before or immediately following an exposure to someone with suspected or confirmed COVID-19 and who remain asymptomatic from COVID-19 do not need to be quarantined.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. I apologize, but you're out of time, ma'am. Oh, yeah. Lindsay Tishner.
Thank you all. I'm going to try to stay on task here. Suzanne, Mr. Kehoe, thank you all for your questions at the last working meeting that were logical and rational to our director of the Oldham County Health Department. They were unable to supply any information or any data to answer your questions, yet we were obviously needed to mask off of that meeting, which was very disappointing. That meeting was my turning point, and I want to thank you guys for lighting a fire behind me to get me to my turning point. Meeting did. Eric Davis, I want to apologize to Eric Davis. I have sent people your way about student issues, and I did not intend for any of those to come at you in a disrespectful way, and I'm so appreciative that you've taken those emails and gotten hit hard. I apologize for that if any of it came from people that I sent your way. I want to talk about how our kids are being treated in the schools. We went from optional masks and respect people's decision about that and their vaccination status to kids being chased down the hall if their nose is showing, threatened with suspension if their nose is showing, children being sent to the office in tears. My daughter, my little 10-year-old, that was her, being threatened that authorities are going to be called if they're not wearing their mask properly, refusal to accept an exemption, and separated like a leper if they have one. All within 24 hours. How did we get there? I have to bring up, and I cannot let it slide, the email that came from one of our guidance counselors who said she wanted to go to battle with students who were non-compliant. I had no idea our counselor's job was to battle a student as if they're a part of the opposition. That is not a counselor's job. It's disgusting that she would be in any way implying that she needs to go fight kids. She's there to counsel them and guide them. I would say she needs to be fired. I know the board doesn't make that decision, but I would encourage it. She doesn't belong here. She wants to change culture. She said she did. We've been talking about that the last couple meetings about CRT and DEI. Clearly, that's her goal. In regards to quarantines, I would ask you to explain to me how a vaccinated person who is positive for COVID, anyone else that's in contact with them that's also vaccinated doesn't have to quarantine. Clearly, they can catch it. Why don't they have to quarantine? Our unvaccinated kids are being segregated and pushed aside, and they have to quarantine because they're around a vaccinated person that tested positive. That doesn't make any sense. We have staff and students who are vaccinated, positive COVID, yet their family members are here and don't have to quarantine. They get to come to school and they get to ride the buses with other students. How is that okay? I mean, what are we going to follow? Are we going to follow CDC? Are we going to follow KDH? Are we going to follow KDE? What are we going to follow? And by the way, I did want to read, I don't have it with me. The Kentucky Department of Education, you may not know it, there's a line that states, if you are in a school facility and there are no students present, now likely there are some here, I know Chastity was here, you don't have to wear a mask.
My apologies, we're out of time.
Yes. So just to let you know, Kentucky Board, when you're at the board and there's no students present, you don't have to wear a mask according to the KDE.
Thank you. Austin Hunsaker. Good afternoon.
Hello. Move that up a little bit. My name is Austin Hunsaker, and I have the pleasure of serving as principal of South Oldham Middle School. While you can never really escape the title of principal, I'm primarily speaking as a parent filled with gratitude tonight. I want to thank the Board of Education for the opportunity to participate during public comment. I've grown very concerned over what seems to be an increasing amount of criticism and even attacks aimed at our schools and district. My intention tonight is to not offer rebuttals, but rather share what my experience has been as a parent in our school district. My daughters attend Kenwood Station Elementary. From the moment they have set foot in Kenwood, they have been cared for by every teacher they've had. They've grown academically each year, and they've had an overall wonderful experience. I also want to mention that our family has faced some tremendous personal challenges over the last few years. I don't share that for sympathy, as we all have a story, but to emphasize the point that over those 2 years, Kenwood has been a vital partner with me and my daughters. See, for my daughters, the staff at Kenwood are far more than just a school staff. They have absolutely been life-changing. My daughters are just 2 of the over 12,000 students we serve in our district. I've watched nearly every educator I've worked with in this county go above and beyond for their students. There's the obvious work that takes place in the school, but there are also home visits, birthday parades, coaching, sponsoring a club, delivering meals, and really anything you can think of to support our students. Our schools are filled with amazing people that love our kids. I am a product of this school district. My entire public school career was in Oldham County, and I will forever be proud of that. I always felt supported as a student and still feel supported today as an employee. This support and resiliency has continued even in the face of unprecedented challenges, from NTI to bus driver shortages, staff shortages, substitute shortages, traffic issues, quarantine protocols, and other numerous challenges. There's no doubt the last 18 months have been challenging and frustrating for our community and families as well. We've all been deeply affected. But we are in this together. I'm asking for all of us to look for ways to build up and support our schools rather than tear them down. Ask questions, but be understanding if you don't get the answer you want. Be a bus driver. Apply to be a substitute teacher. There are so many ways you could help be part of the solution. But please, at the very least, try to refrain from worsening the problem through negativity. One of the many reasons that I came back to Oldham County was because of the incredible parent support shown in this community. You've built a strong reputation for working with the school system to ensure the best educational experience for your children. Please continue to uphold that tradition, even through these extremely difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunsaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to conclude this portion of public expression. There are still several people who signed in to speak. So we're going to proceed with our agenda, and then the board will stay to hear further public expression at the conclusion of the meeting. So thank you for your support and understanding. So we are going to move ahead, Superintendent. We're ready for the treasurer's report, sir.
Okay, Ms. Anderson has prepared the treasurer's report. Ms. Anderson, if you would please come forward. Thanks for being here and making a presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
So this is the treasurer's report for the first month in the new fiscal year, July of 2021, and it begins on page 6. In our first section, we have our listing of cash. Our governmental funds had a beginning balance of $37.6 million and an ending balance of $38.8 million. If we look at our total cash, $42.1 million was our beginning, and $43.9, almost $44 million was our ending balance. If we compare this to where we were in prior years, as we're starting to dig ourselves out of this coronavirus, we had about $45.7 million in total last year, and the year before, prior to the pandemic, we had $53 million. So we have definitely seen a decrease in our cash available. On the second line item, school activity funds, you can see some activity in there, and that is reflective of what happened 6/30 of last year, the year-to-date activity in those funds. In the second section, we've got the bonded construction funds. The only change in this area is to the interest, and you can see that there has been a significant drop in the interest rate due to the economy. On the following page, we have a list of the governmental funds by their cash balances. And the only thing I want to call your attention to is that special revenue fund, fund number 2. It has a negative balance, and that is because the state is behind in payments. They are processing a lot of grant money from all the districts, and they are behind in that process. So that will catch up. On the following page, we have the historical comparisons. Kind of early in the year to talk about too much. If we look at the general revenue fund, that is moving along as we would expect this time of year. We're slightly ahead of where we were last year. If we look at salaries and benefits, just below that, again, we're slightly ahead, and I'll give some more color on that a little bit later. In the next section, we've got zero coming in for property taxes and PSC. That is as expected at this time. However, our delinquent property taxes, we have already exceeded what we've done in any year prior. So I might be adjusting the budget for that one. In the following section, motor vehicle taxes, we are seeing nice increases throughout the years on that. And really there's nothing too significant on the rest of that page. On the following page, you can see the revenue in detail, and the most significant increases are in delinquent property taxes and in motor vehicle revenue taxes. On the following page, we have our expenses by category. In the salary section, I wanted to bring your attention to the line 0130, classified regular salary. You can see there's a significant increase in that over the prior years, and that is a direct result of the salary increases that we gave the classified staff as a result of our MAG study. If you go down to the next section under employee benefits, again, if you look at the CERS, employer contribution, this is the retirement for these classified folks. And we are seeing two things affect this. First of all, the state has mandated that we pay an additional 12% on our salaries, and combined with the increase in this overall classified salaries, we are seeing a fairly significant increase in that. On the following pages are just the various other expenses that are going through. We are seeing an increase in cost because our summer school was open all summer. We've got water, electricity. Normally we shut things down over the summer, so we have some increased costs because of that. We have some timing issues, and of course the normal air conditioning costs that happen this time as we go through repairs. We are also seeing a significant increase in our software. And there are two things going on in this. This is on page 16. You can see a fairly large increase from last year to this year. And again, there are two things going on here. Part of that is moving the start of some of these contracts to July 1st. So we're not paying different contracts. We're just changing the timing of those. However, we are seeing a 19% increase in pricing. So the 1 to 3% that they say inflation is, that is not the case in our software area. So this is a significant cost. You can see the budget is out there at almost $1 million. So we're about halfway through that budget, but we have moved a lot of the costs up to start July. So just wanted to call that to your attention. Down in that next section under property, there's a $50,000 expense that is part of our phone project. So that concludes the detail on that. If you look at the final page, page 17, you can see the expenses moving across the 4 years, and our expenses are up $500,000 this year over the prior year. We're seeing that in both salaries and in software for the most part. On the following page are the expenses as shown by function. On page 22, we've got the summary of bonding potential, which has not changed. It will change after we get this bond issue, and we'll get that updated. Following that are the balance sheets on page 23, and then the income statements by fund beginning on page 38. So that concludes the treasurer's report.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Are there questions or comments? Motion to approve the treasurer's report. Made by Mr. Kehoe and seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. Ms. Anderson, will you walk us through bills and claims, please?
Yes, on page 96, we have the beginning of the bills and claims. This is all the activity since we last met. You can see that we've got 1,210 invoices for $4.4 million in costs as compared to prior years. We are above last year and below 2 years before, so we're kind of right in a good place, it seems like. And following that, you can see each of the bills that we have paid and some short descriptions for some of those. And that concludes this portion.
Bills and claims, excellent. Any questions or comments, board members? All right, motion to approve bills and claims made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you.
We have 2 sets of minutes to approve, board members. The first are from the regular July 26th board meeting. Any questions or corrections? May I have a motion to approve those? Made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor? And that's 4-0. We also had a work session on August 9th. Any corrections or additions? Motion to approve, please. Made by Mr. Kehoe and seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor? And that's 4-0 again. Superintendent, we are ready for your report regarding personnel actions.
Sure, there's nothing out of the ordinary. We just continue to fill spots for the upcoming school year and have even shared as much with our school community and with their parents in terms of we are seeing shortages in a lot of support areas.
Appreciate that. Any comments? All right, we're ready for the consent agenda. Dr. Radford, we have items A through N.
Yes,
and M.
Yes, and to approve the consent items as presented in your packet is my recommendation.
Motion to approve the consent agenda made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. We're ready for superintendent report number 1, sir.
Sure. I'd first like to call Ms. Ann Corson to give the board, present to the board the first reading of proposed policies for the coming school year. So, Ms. Corson, thank you for being here, and thanks in advance for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, well, it's kind of
Welcome.
thank you. It's kind of an odd time of year, but we've got some policies to review. We also have a new policy, 5011, that is part of the SB, I think it's SB 8, the school safety bill, on training requirements. And we had some additions to our admissions requirements, mostly just to clarify our policy, because as we grow, more and more people are trying to enroll based on either living here full-time or having a home here. So we did clarify that, and we also clarified our full-time employee policy regarding enrollment. So do you have any questions on any of those?
Questions, board members? So we will have a month to review these and take action on them next month. Thank you, Ms. Corson.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call Jason Morgan, Mr. Morgan, to come to the podium and discuss the renaming of Oldham County High School's stadium at Bell Field.
Thank you, Dr. Radford. Welcome, Mr. Morgan.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. My name is Jason Morgan. I'm the president of the Chris Landers Foundation. I don't think I need to go into a lot of detail about who Chris was. I think a lot of people in this room knew Chris. He was an inspiration to thousands of people in this county for decades. Chris unfortunately passed away last summer after a courageous battle with cancer. Shortly after his passing, a group of friends and family came together to form a foundation, which I am a part of. And that foundation is actively raising money to support the school system. One of our goals is to improve the stadium. But the reason I'm here today is to simply ask your approval to rename the field. We're going to keep Bell Field, but we're asking for your approval to change the name to Bell Field at Chris Landers Stadium in his honor. Chris worked for 28 years for the school system, so he was a very loyal employee of the district. He was an alumnus. He was a shining example of what this school system can do for kids, that not everybody goes to college. And so with that, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but it's a very simple request.
Yes, and we have a nice packet from you too, Mr. Morgan, so thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, we have this on the agenda later on as an action item, if you'll stay with us, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're ready. Superintendent, we're ready for report number 3, sir.
Sure. At this time, I'd like to ask Reverend Mark Brockman to come to the podium and discuss the renaming of Oldham County High School's soccer field. Welcome.
Welcome, Reverend Brockman.
Thank you. I have prepared a sermon. It's about 45 minutes long.
Yay.
Just kidding, just kidding. Really appreciate this opportunity to address the board. Thank you very much. Very considerate of you to take time in the midst of everything else that's going on to hear this. I have some introductions for you. In the back of the room, there are 2 members of the Oldham County State Championship soccer team from 1972.
Wow.
Mike Straight and Hartley Winters. And there are 2 older men back there, Tom Davis and David Hurt, who participated with me in the 1975 state championship game. We did not win the game, but we were in the final game.
Excellent.
So we wanted to come and say how much Coach Bob Young meant to us in the development of our lives, and just explain a little bit about him and the reason we're asking for the soccer field here at Oldham County to be named in his honor. In the late 60s, Bob Young came here to this community and he began to recruit young men to play soccer. I was recruited because he met my mother in the grocery store and she had a British accent. She was from England, and he thought my brother and I must know something about soccer, which we did not. And just about everybody that played learned everything they knew about the game from Coach Young. He formed the original Oldham County High School soccer team right around 1970, which again beat Trinity in the state championship in 1972. It was one of the very first high school soccer teams in the state, and has become quite a prominent program thanks to a lot of great coaches that we've had over the years. He taught in the Oldham County system, and he formed this original team. Coach Young did everything that he could do to get us to a level where we could play ball games around the state, even in other states. I think there were a couple times when he procured a bus from the bus garage and no one knew that he took it, and he would take us to games. He drove us to the ball games in old beat up school buses that he could convince the school board or whoever that we could take. He wrote articles in the local paper about the team, and what an encourager he was to us. We died to read the Oldham Era, and there was another paper at that time called the Country Gentleman, and we wanted to see what the coach wrote about us. So I just want to read a quick excerpt from one of those articles. This is from May 15th, 1975. It's just one paragraph, a description of something that happened in a game. Then early in the second quarter came a real picture book goal. After some nice interpassing between Wyman, Camfield, and Kinzer, he always mentioned almost every player on the team in his articles. On the left side, Kinzer crossed the ball to the far post where right wing Hurt, who's standing back here, was waiting. Hurt dove through the air for a flying header, driving an unstoppable ball into the back of the net. It was the kind of beautifully executed goal that makes soccer such a beautiful game. Those were the sorts of things that he expressed about us as players, and we really feel truly that it's right to honor him with the naming of the field. I could go on and on and on, but we'll let that suffice, and if you have any questions, I'd love to answer those. We also want you to know that some of the guys in the back, and also another player, former player, who's actually at a game watching his grandchild play right now, we want to express to you that if there is a financial need to help make this happen and to do it well, we would like to help with the fundraising of that and would be happy to provide manpower as well. So,
Mr. Brockman, I appreciate your being here this afternoon. We owe you an apology. Your letter came to the district in 2019 to make this request, and you got hijacked by a pandemic.
Yes, indeed.
And we were also in the process of writing our policy for naming rights. And so we really needed to figure out how that policy was going to look.
Understand.
So I am, as a mother of 4 sons who played soccer and are still playing soccer in their midlife crises, and one is coaching, so I certainly understand the language of the article that you read. I'm not going to ask Mr. Hurt to demonstrate his header skills, but
you can probably still do it.
I'm deeply grateful that you are here this afternoon.
Well, we thank you very much for your consideration, and again, anything.
Any other questions or comments, board members?
Reverend Brockman, I would make one suggestion, regardless of any action the board may take in the future about your request. You may also, or would encourage you to reach out to the Oldham County High School Athletic Hall of Fame for something you might consider in terms of coach and recognition, okay?
Great idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Superintendent, we are ready for report number 3, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to share with you all the opening, how school has started, and just read some comments I've put together. We've just finished our 9th day of school in Oldham County. I have visited many of our schools along with our staff, and I'm very pleased with what we see, given the challenges that have been, that we all know that we're dealing with in our county and across our state and our country. Our students are highly engaged with lessons our teachers and staff have developed and worked very hard to do so. We are near our projected enrollment of 12,293 students. We're just shy of that enrollment overall. Our district attendance has been about 95.5%. That does vary, but that's where we are as of today. These numbers are very solid given our circumstances and speaks to the hard work of our staff across the district. I'd also like to recognize our support staff across our district, as has been mentioned just briefly here tonight. They're working very hard to ensure our district provides the best support for every student. However, our district is being stretched thin, and as shared in a message distributed on Friday to our community and to our school district, we need some additional help. We have openings in the following areas of transportation, food service, classroom aides, and substitute teachers. Would encourage anyone to contact our Human Resources Office at the district building and/or go to our website for more information. Our HR team would be more than happy to support anyone completing an application. We have full-time and part-time positions available. I'd first also like to go in and share a few more other updates. We hear your concerns about late buses, and these concerns are not falling on deaf ears. Most of the issues stem from increased traffic around schools during morning drop-off and especially during the afternoon pickup. We may continue to face problems due to increased number of car riders this school year. Construction on I-71 has greatly impacted traffic at Oldham County and South campuses. Traffic flow has gotten better. Just ask our community to please continue to be patient We're working diligently with local officials and internally to try to solve and increase that flow of traffic, and with our school leaders. We have a shortage of bus drivers, and this is not just an Oldham County problem, but also across our state. Please consider applying for a position that I've just mentioned previously. We have a challenging few weeks ahead of us with COVID projections for the state and for the county. And one thing I'd like to just make note of, and we all appreciate our community members being here tonight. And as I've shared with our staff and with our community, that we approach this with grace and with civility and with respect. And by and large, for the most part, that's happened here tonight. And I thank each of you for that. I don't say that to change your opinion, to change your views, but really greatly just appreciate how we can try to do the very best we can, because our kids are showing up at school each and every day. Many of you I've spoken with, some I've met with, some I've had emails with, certainly our board members have as well. And for the most part, by and large, that has been the approach and the response that we've gotten. Based upon requirements from public health, and what we have been, as a result of the governor's executive order and emergency regulation, masks have been required, and that has been told to reduce quarantine. As I've mentioned previously in previous weeks, other school districts who started with just an option were only, after several days, up to 3 to 5 days, were averaging 100 to 200 students in quarantine a day, and so then they had to quickly pivot to a virtual instruction. That's something we want our kids in school every day. And to be transparent, I've gotten several, certainly we want to always do that with our community. As of today, if you recall on Friday, I reported that we had 303 staff and students in quarantine. 285 of that 303 were students. The other 17, if my math is correct, it may not be, were staff. And that could have been a bus driver, it could have been a cafeteria worker. So as of today, and positive cases that happened over the weekend and that were reported to us, we currently have 467 on quarantine as of today. That's mainly by and large students. That number is increased. However, we're trying to do everything we can to watch that very closely. As you may know, in addition to that, as we've heard tonight from public comment, in terms of concerns and certainly more than that, and recognize that folks are concerned, they're fearful, there's even folks are angry, and I certainly understand that. But as you know, the Kentucky Supreme Court issued a ruling on Saturday directing the Franklin Circuit Court to dissolve the injunction that prevented House Bill 1, House Bill 2, and SR 77 going into effect. The court was also directed to resolve the case on its merits, meaning it must decide the constitutionality of the new laws passed by the Kentucky legislature. In other words, the case is not over. It will continue in Franklin Circuit Court. Today, if you've noticed and seen in the headlines or on social media, the governor, Andy Beshear, canceled his August 10th executive order that requires students to wear masks in schools. The Kentucky Board of Education's emergency regulation is not affected by the Kentucky Supreme Court's order, is what we were told today. If the KBE regulation is rescinded, so let me repeat that, if the KBE regulation is rescinded, the provisions of House Bill 1 will come into effect. Under House Bill 1, a school district may adopt its own pandemic safety plan with its merits or exceeds the requirements of the CDC's or executive branch recommendations, whichever is least restrictive. I hope this helps clarify the status of the current pandemic safety requirements and give some additional information to where we currently are as a school district.
Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Williams, did you want to add to this report, sir?
I just made myself available if you had questions about numbers.
Well, and while you are here, let me take this opportunity on behalf of the board and the district to thank you for the yeoman's job that you are doing to help us monitor where students are and what is happening in our school buildings. Thank you, Mr. Williams. All right, Superintendent, we have one more superintendent report.
Yes, thank you. Board members, if you'll see, you have a packet that outlines my ILP that is required for all as superintendent and as a new superintendent. I won't take the time to read this entire report to you and be diligent, try to be efficient with our time and with the folks that we have here at our board meeting tonight, but it outlines the 7 standards that superintendents are evaluated or assessed on. And so you can see in your packet, it outlines again those 7 standards, and then you can see pictures that illustrate, and then in terms of things that we've done over the last 2 months, really this is a reflection of just the month of July. So August is certainly not complete, so this is only a reflection of July. I would just pinpoint or point out to the board that an area that we want to continue to focus on, which I think speaks to exactly the comments that I just made earlier, was around human resources and human resource leadership. We have several areas in terms of support services that we are certainly needing to fill and needing to be as diligent as we can. We're meeting constantly to try and talking with other districts to network and to also brainstorm in terms of other things that we can do. I think that's very timely. I wish that we had all the answers to all of those concerns and questions. We do have some ideas and some thoughts that we can do, and so we're trying to continue to work on that. So I hope to be able to come back to the board even as early as September with some ideas and or suggestions. The team is, I also like to say a couple of things. I really appreciate the team. They've worked so hard across the board to really provide the best service that they can to our students. Our community expects nothing but the best for our kids, and we recognize and we know that. And they shouldn't expect anything less when it comes to services, when we talk about transportation, food service, aids, and all of those kinds of things. So for the community, we've averaged, last week we had 15 to 20 subs that were not filled. So that puts quite a strain on teachers and our staff, so that when kids show up every day, we want to do the very best that we can for them. So hope that adds some clarity.
Any questions or comments for the superintendent? Dr. Radford, this is an outstanding ILP packet that you have prepared for us. You have been so busy, and I want to remind us all that Dr. Radford's tenure with us actually began on the 1st of July. But he took the initiative to spend most of June working with the former superintendent to get his feet on the ground, and that is above and beyond what is expected of a new superintendent. So we are very fortunate to have you. Let me take this opportunity to introduce Terry Morgan, who happens to be Dr. Radford's mentor, and she is the superintendent of Hardin County Schools. So welcome, Ms. Morgan, and thank you for being with us. All right, let's roll through our action items. And we've seen all these. Action item N, superintendent.
Yes, action item N is approval for FY22 policy revisions. Ms. Corson is available if the board has any questions.
All right, we have seen these. Any questions or comments? Motion to approve. Made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Ms. Hundley, and all those in favor, and that's 4-0, and that's with your recommendation to approve.
Yes.
Action item O, sir.
Yes, next is action item O, which is approval of hardship early graduation requests. Mr. Williams is available if the board has any questions.
Any questions or comments, board members? Your recommendation, superintendent?
I recommend to approve.
All right, motion to approve action item O made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. Action item P, sir.
Yes, action item P is approval for FY21 school donations. Ms. Anderson is available if the board has any questions.
All right, any questions or comments? Your recommendation, sir?
I recommend to approve.
Motion to approve action item P made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor? That's 4-0. Action item Q, sir.
Action item Q is approval for renaming of the Oldham County High School Stadium at Bell Field. Mr. Morgan is available if the board has any questions.
Yes, sir. Any questions or comments, board members? Your recommendation, sir?
I recommend to approve.
Motion to approve made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor, that's 4-0. Congratulations, Mr. Morgan, wherever you are. It's a It's a fine tribute to an outstanding young man. Thank you for leading that charge, Jason, wherever you are. All right, action item R, sir.
The final action item is R, as you mentioned, is approval of Stockyards Bank resolution. Ms. Anderson is available if the board has any questions.
Yes, any questions or comments? Your recommendation, sir.
I recommend to approve.
Motion to approve, please. Made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor, that's 4-0. Board members, we have one report at the conclusion of this agenda for your review, and that's the monthly district energy usage report. So just take that into consideration. And we are ready, Superintendent, for recognition, sir.
Absolutely. Right at this time, the board would like to recognize Kevin Woosley with the presentation. So
he's here. So, I can't.
certainly, we'd like to recognize Mr. Kevin Woosley for his service on the Board of Education for all of these years, 12 years. I was going to say 13. 12 years. Our board members are certainly represent the constituents of which they serve, and as our county is divided up into districts but board members get very little, our board members do not serve our community for the money. Our board members serve for their passion for education, for public education, and for that of our students. Mr. Woosley, Kevin, if I may, he has exemplified that for his passion for students. Initially with my first time I met Mr. Woosley and then subsequent conversations afterwards, you can quickly tell the passion that he has for our community. And as coming in as new superintendent, that's something I've seen from every person that I've met across our county and across our school district. So certainly really appreciate your service. Thank you, sir. Cannot say it enough, and share that with the deepest of appreciation. So thank you very much.
In the words of Kevin Woosley, let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up, Mr. Woosley. Kevin served, as Dr. Radford said, for 12 years. Much of that was as the vice chairman while I have been chairman. Not only is he passionate about kids and doing what's right for the community, he also has an amazing sense of humor, and we miss him. So thank you. Speech?
Nope.
No speech.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve you, and don't screw this up.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite the Oldham County Education Foundation President, Ms. Gina Babbitt, to come forward and make presentations for our awards at this time.
Yes, it will, Gina, if you just roll it back, maybe.
Not that talented.
Ms. Babbitt, welcome. And on behalf of the board, I would like to thank you for your leadership with the Education Foundation. It's a partnership that the district has with the Education Foundation, and they have afforded the district the ability to do a lot of things we wouldn't be able to do. And this recognition for some of our staff members is outstanding, so thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gina Babbitt, and I'm the president of Oldham County Educational Foundation, commonly referred to as OSEF. On behalf of our organization and our board of directors, many of which are sitting over there, I want to thank everyone for your support to our Pyramid Award winners this evening. Pyramid Awards are a keystone of what Oldham County Educational Foundation represents. They represent our mission to provide financial resources to areas with decreased funding. As a board member of OSEF, we get the opportunity to read the Pyramid Award applications. And although we're not able to award them all, it is a really great feeling because we have a lot of incredibly talented teachers in our district. In 1989, Oldham County Educational Foundation was formed in a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. As they both acknowledged the need for technology, their first initiative was just to put one computer in every classroom. So we've come a long way from that first initiative. Resources and funding has been provided to each school in various ways, to the Art Center, to the preschool, and the Arvin Center. As I reflect on a lot of our accomplishments when I was writing this, I have to acknowledge we also had some recent struggles. These struggles weren't unique to OSEF, but were felt among a lot of nonprofits. As events had to be canceled and group sizes became limited and fundraising opportunities decreased, we had to regroup and find alternative ways to support our teachers and staff of Oldham County. And we know that teachers are fundamental to the academic success of our students, and that pushes us as a board to want to do more. Tonight is a privilege for OSEF. We get to highlight the hard work and effort of our 2021 Pyramid Award winners that despite teaching during a time that held so many obstacles and unknowns, they still submitted a grant application. So congratulations to all of you all that are here tonight, and there were a few that were unable to attend. So at this time, I'm going to get started with the ceremony. If I could have our Pyramid Award Committee, Nicole Kirby and Kathleen, could you come up and help me, please? I'm going to call each award winner by name, and I'm going to do it by school. So if there's more than one winner per school, we'll step over here and take a picture with superintendent. And afterwards, if you all, the award winners and your guests, would like to join us for a small reception, the culinary department is hosting us, which is exciting. I would like to say we had several sponsors that made that possible for us, which we really appreciate. Robin Lawson with Financial Solutions, Voya Financial, iSolved Benefits, USI Insurance Services, and Ash Group. Okay, let's get started. So our first Pyramid Award goes to Tanya Burns of Arvin Education Center. Her grant title was Engineering Solutions for Global Health. Here's your certificate and one for.
Congratulations, Miss Tanya.
You are our only one from Arvin, so I will step over here and get a picture. Oh, that's tricky. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Next is Felicia Claus with Buckner Elementary. Title of her grant is Dream in STEAM. Congratulations. This is your certificate. Mine's for your, congratulations. Thank you. She's the only one. I'll let you have that. Good job. Thank you. Congratulations. Next is Miss Lauren Bond from Camden Station Elementary. This one's exciting for me because my daughter gets to reap the benefits of this award. Architecture for the elementary STEM classroom. So congratulations. It's wonderful. She's the one. Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Bond. Okay, next we're going to go to Centerfield Elementary. There are quite a few. So first is Rebecca Broughton. Is she present? Okay. Okay. I will get that to her. Sorry. Bethany Blake. Here. Okay. Oh. Are you Bethany? Whoa, well then, congratulations. Equity of voice for every child. You had a long walk.
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Just come over here?
Yes, please.
Okay.
We're going to keep going. Okay. I apologize. I want to make sure I pronounce her name correctly. Nicole Shappett, is that right? With Glow Games. Congratulations. I actually called your school to make sure I pronounced it correctly. Congratulations. Morgan True was a collaborator also, and Katie Morgan. Are they present tonight? Thank you very much. Stacy Pedigo for flexible furniture for the collaborative classroom. Congratulations. And last one is Jessica Buckley, Little Bins for Little Hands with Big Minds. I know. And here is the one. Okay, I think this is everyone. Thank you for taking that. Okay. Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations, Centerfield. Crestwood had 3 Pyramid Award winners. First is Molly Mink, Sensory Paths and Sensory Space, a much needed brain break. Not present, okay. Next is Catherine Reardon, Little Kids Rock, building a ukulele program. Congratulations. Sounds very exciting and fun. I'm sure the kids are very excited about that. Great job. Last from Crestwood is DigiBlocks for a deeper understanding, Mallory DePorter. Congratulations.
Good job, Mallory.
Congratulations. Next is East Oldham Middle School. We had one Pyramid Award winner, Paul Lyle, Student Power to Publish. Congratulations.
Sure.
The fingerprint. Yeah. Okay.
Good job, Paul. Thank you.
Next is Kenwood Station Elementary. It's Sensory Paths for Busy Minds, and this is Ashley Malone. Not here? Okay.
Not here.
Oh, thought she was coming. Okay. Next, we're going to head to LaGrange Elementary, where we had several there. Bridget Taylor, Specialized Sensory Room, Regulate, Regain Focus, and Return. Congratulations. I thought at first it was a typo. And
Yeah, because
then-
this is 3 Rs.
Well, and then I read it, I was like, well, that's really, it's very clever.
Good job, Miss Taylor. Thank you.
Next is Bethany Motter, Sensory Smart Environments. Congratulations.
Good job, Bethany.
Next is Rebecca Kirtland, Core Communication Boards, and she had a collaborator, Brenna Duncan. Congratulations.
Good job.
And the last one from LaGrange, Jessica Abbott, Building First Grade Literacy Leaders Through Phonological Awareness. Is she present? Well, we'll clap it. Okay. Congratulations again. Do you mind if I hand you all those? Okay, thank you. Okay. Congratulations. Oh, yes. Yes, thank you. Okay. Next is Locust Grove Elementary. We had one Pyramid Award winner, Becky Brewer, Intro to Virtual Reality. Okay. Next is North Oldham High School. We had two award winners. First is Robert Norton, Breaking Down Physics with Breakout Boxes. I know, doesn't that sound exciting?
No, it's
For physics, it sounded
Gina.
that. Next is Kelly Isaacs, Pickleball Promoters. Right?
That
sounds better. We're looking forward, congratulations, to at the end, well,
Yes.
at the end, when you... The tournament? Yeah, when you let us know, that is very exciting, and this is one. Thank you so much. Next is North Oldham Middle School. We had 3 award winners. First is Brenda Cole for microscopes. Christine Holabinko, compound microscopes. And last is Sharon Jacobs, vacuum pump and compressor. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Good job, Sharon. Are those formulas on your dress, Sharon? Are those formulas?
Oldham County High School, we had one Pyramid Award winner, Derek Cole, for Podcast Studio. Oldham County Middle School, we had 4. So first is Lydia Clay, Kiln for a Ceramics Program. You have the perfect last name, right? Next is Kara Lauterbach, Engineering for the Future. Congratulations.
Kara, congratulations.
Next is Lauren Halseel, the ECS Accessible Classroom Library. I called back your name too. Congratulations. And last is Megan Cronin, Drunk Busters Alcohol Prevention.
Whoa.
That's right.
I'd like to talk to Megan.
That was intriguing. Thank you. Congratulations. Oh, wow, yes, absolutely. Megan? Okay, and I'm going to give you the front for the school office. Is that okay? Okay. Tell her congratulations. Please. Thank you so much. Our last award for South Oldham High School is Katie Booman, Love the Hungry, Examining Food Insecurity. Congratulations.
Good job, Katie.
Congratulations. Thank you all so much. That's the end of our Pyramid Awards for this evening. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to do this, and thank you for having us this evening. We appreciate the time.
Thank you, Miss Gina.
And
Awesome.
all of our award winners and guests, if you'd like to meet us in the hallway, and we'll head down to our reception with Chef Reed. So thank you.
You
Thank you.
guys are so lucky. You are going to be blessed by those culinary students of ours, and congratulations to all of our Pyramid Award winners. We're going to take a quick break to allow them to go to their reception, and then board members will return to finish with public expression. Any of our staff who would like to join the reception, please do. Please do. Okay, we're going to continue with public expression, and the next person who signed in, her first name is Beth. Beth, if you're still here. I'm going to move on then. Alyssa Johnson. Melissa Donning. Tell me who you are.
Alyssa Johnson.
Alyssa Johnson. Thank you, Miss Johnson. Sure. We're ready. Mr. Dotson, will you be our timekeeper again, sir?
Of course.
Hi.
Hi.
Best here. Best here.
Okay, I'll circle. Don't panic. I'll circle back. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Alyssa, go ahead.
I come forward with hope. I am a mother and a medical professional. I understand p-values, confidence intervals, experimental studies, and trials. I hope to encourage the board members here to seek science outside of mainstream media sources. There are sizable studies from reputable sources that we can be confident in, and I'd be happy to share some of those studies if anyone's interested. I'm sad to say that there is censorship, and it is profound. There is also bad data being shared on all fronts. I don't believe masks work, not the way that we are wearing them. I speak from over a year and a half of experience in the acute care setting. I have taken care of people dying with COVID-19 infection and related illness. I have also taken care of people dying due to COVID, and there is a difference. I have assisted in the care of people adversely affected by the vaccine and a few who have died due to it. Sorry. And a few who have died due to complications from the vaccine. I don't say that to scare anyone. I say it so that people will consider that they are receiving a new vaccine with little evidence to support safety and efficacy. It has to be we have to have a choice for this reason. COVID-19 infection can be bad, fatal for some, and I support everyone having a decision to do what they believe is best for them and their family. The psychological and health impacts of this pandemic are astronomical. I hope this board will put supports in place for our kids to mitigate some of the damage and social impacts of the bullying and coercion that is occurring. Most importantly, we need to support our children to stay loyal to their deeply held beliefs and the right to choose what is best for them. I hope the Kentucky Supreme Court ruling over the weekend leading to Governor Beshear canceling the mask order for schools will help support this board and allowing our children to be mask-free if they want to be. Some people feel safer in masks, and I honor that. I do want to reiterate the importance of continuing hand washing, keeping our children home when we know that they are ill. If we stay smart, we will get through this, and if we can remain compassionate, our kids will have a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Okay, Miss Beth. They are dying to hear from you, Miss Beth. Thank you. You're going to have to lower that mic.
Yeah, I'm vertically challenged.
What's your last name again?
Lamprecht. I'm sorry, I wrote terribly. As you guys probably remember from last month, I'm a former teacher. I've been teaching since 1996, and I served 3 years in Oldham County Schools before leaving there and pulling our children out. And Mr. Davis spoke earlier of being an example for our children, and so one of the reasons that we pulled our twins out was because of a guidance counselor who refused to get my daughter's transcripts from her Florida school for 3 years, refused to put her in advanced French, refused to honor her Gates label, refused to put her in her anatomy class even though her teacher requested it in writing twice, and we had to get a different guidance counselor to do it. And the same guidance counselor is the one who referred to battling non-compliant kids. So that's the example that your guidance counselor is leaving for our children. Let me tell you about how some other educational staff are being a good example. So I have a former student, and I ran into him at Kroger the other day, and he said, Mrs. L, I got to talk to you. And I said, how are you? What's going on? He said, you won't believe what happened to me. I said, what happened? He said, well, I was going to lead a protest on Tuesday morning, a peaceful protest against the mask for the kids to be able to have a voice. He said, but the principal came out and asked me if I would come into his office for a few minutes, and I said, sure. I told the kids who were gathering outside to wait, and I would be right back. I went in, and when I walked in, there was the superintendent and a board member from the Board of Education waiting for me. I was escorted into the office, and the door was closed. The principal, the superintendent, and the board member then sat me down and asked me to explain why I was holding a protest and what my intents were and why I thought what I thought. He said they were very kind and they were very nice, and I explained everything, but it was very quick, and I was done answering the question fast. He said they continued to ask me questions, and I was kept in there for 45 minutes, and the kids outside didn't know what to do with the protest because they never came back, so they just walked into class, and then when the bell rang, they finally dismissed me, and I was late to first period. I said, how did that make you feel? He said, well, I know they were nice, but I know what they were doing, Mrs. L., and it wasn't right. So that's the example that your staff are doing. Let me tell you about some more. We have another person who is got COVID, and his family, even though he's a staff member, is not being forced to quarantine. They were allowed to go this weekend to all kinds of activities and school events without quarantining, even though he is homesick and has been for 3 to 4 days. So what I want to know is, if we are supposed to be concerned about being an example for our children, how are these people who are employed by your school system working for you being an example to our kids? So in addition to that, we were also told that by staff members, and we means a large group of parents, including myself, have been told by several staff members, this is not just one, that the Governor Beshear and the Kentucky Department of Ed have informed them that if they, as staff members, do not comply with the mask and everything else that you are requiring, quarantine and all these rules, that they will be arrested.
Okay, Ms. Beth, I'm sorry, I got to call time.
Okay.
If there's anything else you want to share with us, you know how to reach us by email.
I'll come back. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Mrs. L. Melissa, is it Downing? Downing. Good afternoon.
Okay, just forgive me.
It's okay.
My name is Melissa Downing, and this district is, when I say it's a part of my DNA, it is a part of my DNA. My dad graduated from Oldham County High School in 1964, and my mom, who's here, began teaching at the high school in 1970, along with my dad. I don't know where I was conceived. I don't want to know, Mom, where I was conceived, but I was almost born in what became Miss Gravis's classroom, and before she went to Building 3, and then she went back to Building 1. Blake Hazelton is my godfather, and I can honestly say that the teachers and staff in this school district, whether they were my teacher or not, were second family.
Thank you.
So this district is a part of my DNA, and I'm super proud to be a part of, to have taught here for a couple of years before I left to, I call it Save the World. I work with human trafficking victims. I taught secondary at-risk students, and followed my heart and my passion to, I like suffering, I guess, I don't know, but anyway, I lovingly call myself the OG of the OC. I might be the only one that calls me that, but in my head it makes sense, and I was the president of my class, and my classmates are like siblings. They matter to me. I'm a product of this district who was part of the Writing Across the Curriculum. So you all are responsible for teaching me how to analyze and criticize and write, and defend, and I hated it at the time, but it gave me a really important life skill, and it taught me to think for myself, to formulate my own opinion, and be able to defend it with some credibility and some authority, and I appreciate that. A couple board meetings ago, I came here with an open mind because I do like suffering and I have a heart for people. And I wanted to know about the critical race theory. And I have to be honest with you. I looked at the sources. I looked at the curriculum that was adopted by our school district, the Character Strong. Wanted to know how is that different? And I'm going to say this, and please forgive me if I offend anybody, but anybody that knows Mr. Weedman knows he was rough around the edges, but he told it like it was, and he would say, "Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining." And that's kind of how I felt about that meeting that day. It was critical race theory, just packaged in a different box with a different color bow. And I know that because I have a degree in communications, and I love language. I was super disappointed, and I have to be honest with you. I'm part of a district that used words like excellence and integrity, respect. And Ms. Fletcher, with all due respect, I didn't feel that you demonstrated those qualities at that meeting. I was embarrassed, and I was ashamed, I'll be very honest, because I poured my heart and soul into this district. Mom's legacy, my family's legacy is wrapped up in this district. My grandson just started at Buckner Elementary. He makes me cry. Yes, I'm too young to have a grandson. He just started, and he's on the spectrum, and he's precious.
Ms. Downing, I am so sorry, but you are out of time. Would you like to continue to share with us by email or phone call or?
Yeah, I can. I will just leave you with this, that I was at Locust Grove, there was a mural on the wall, and my 5-year-old grandson knew exactly what the message was, and it was critical race theory, the message. He knew exactly what was expected of him, and I have a problem with that. And images are just as powerful, and I'd just like to remind you that images started a Holocaust, and they began with mandates. So, thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Blackwell.
Thank you all for staying over to let us speak. I'm going to speak about masks, which I know you feel is a done issue, but I have a question for you at the end that I hope I get to. There's a lot of passionate parents and families on both sides of this mask issue, all of which are well-intentioned. That's what both sides have in common. Both sides just want what's best for their children. Both want them safe. What these two sides do not have in common is that the ones who want mask mandates are not basing it on science-based evidence or peer-reviewed research. Is something which you, nor Frankfurt, nor the CDC, all have not been able to present because, frankly, it does not exist. There is no peer-reviewed published data showing that masks are effective or safe for kids, period. An article titled "The Science of Masking Kids at School Remains Uncertain" this weekend, Dr. Alyssa Perkins, Director of Emergency Medicine Infectious Disease Management at Boston Medical Center, wrote, quote, "A year ago I said masks are not the end of the world. Why not just wear a mask? But the world has changed. There are real downsides to masking children for this long with no known end date and without any clear upside." She continues, "I'm not aware of any studies that show conclusively that kids wearing masks in schools has any effect on their own morbidity or mortality or hospitalization or death rate in the community around them," end quote. She is just one of a number of top experts now calling for this type of discussion and raising concerns about the CDC's recent recommendations that what has somehow now become accepted as conventional knowledge. Another professor, Vinay Prasad, a practicing hematologist, oncologist, and associate professor in the Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics at the University of California, San Francisco, wrote in critique of the CDC's child masking recommendation, quote, "The CDC cannot follow the science because there is no relative science," end quote. So, that brings us to the end of July when CDC began recommending masks again, and they are basing this on a study that failed peer review, is unpublished, and is based on a vaccine in India that is not even approved in the United States. We continually use the phrase "follow the science," and I agree. It is important to look at unbiased scientific evidence, and I'd like to share some today. A peer-reviewed study on masks in children published by the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, confirms that not only masking children does not prevent the spread of COVID-19, it likely increases the spread and is legitimately dangerous for kids. The study found that kids were inhaling carbon dioxide up to 6 times more than that of the legal amount for adults. A different peer-reviewed published study out of Germany showed the overwhelming majority of kids they tested with masks experienced effects like hypercapnia, that's excessive carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. The study found that kids suffered from profound cognitive impairment, confusion, loss of consciousness, and asphyxiation, which is what brings me here today. I have a middle child at Camden Station, which suffers greatly daily from this.
Ms. Blackwell, my apologies.
I would like to pose my question to you in ending. My question to you after all of this is, what will be the ramifications of masking all these children without scientific evidence for doing so?
Thank you. You know, I'd like to just respond, and I know that Lisa Paris, are you still here? I've had some correspondence with some of you individually. I don't think any of the board members here would argue the efficacy of face masks. we understand there are no peer-reviewed articles about the efficacy of face masks. What we are bound to, which I've said many times, we are bound to the guidance that was given us from the Oldham County Health Department and the quarantine restrictions that are given to us from the state level. And we are obligated to follow the quarantine. This is not going to be a dialogue, I'm sorry. I'm just responding to the last speaker. We are bound to follow the quarantine guidelines. And while we have over 400 students in quarantine, if we had implemented a recommendation, those quarantine numbers would be 3 times that high based on the guidelines that we have to follow. This is not speculation. This is based on what has happened in other districts that have been forced to close schools and to resume NTI. So I don't think we can continue to argue the efficacy of face masks. If you, and let me also say, if you want to listen, let me also say that when we took action before school started, we said that we would follow the data daily and that we would reevaluate the mask mandate at 3 weeks. We have 1 more week of school before we come together and we can reevaluate where the district is and whether or not it's safe to fall back on a recommendation. So I'm just trying to share a little bit of information, which is the perspective of the school board. And I don't know if you want to add or let's roll on.
The Kentucky Supreme Court said no more masks.
KDE did.
You got to give more country
Bridget.
Are you more than the Supreme Court?
Bridget, are you here? Bridget Ely. Ely, my apologies. Officer Simpson, are you here? Okay, stay tuned. Welcome, Miss Bridget.
Thank you. Yeah, first of all, I wanted to say we have the most amazing teachers in this district, and I hope we don't get to a point where disagreeing with district policy equates to not supporting our teachers. That is a method that's used to shut down people who disagree with government policies. It's been used historically. We're on to it. We see it happening, okay? And this is a talisman. A talisman is an object that people carry with them or put around their neck that they believe has magical powers to keep them well. And that doesn't come from me. That comes from a virologist, and I could forward you the video of this person. And I know that I'm just a stupid housewife who's incapable of understanding the complexities of the science. But it seems the most confused people are those at the CDC and the WHO, both of whom told us at the beginning of the pandemic that the face masks don't work and that they can spread more diseases. And the crazy thing is, this is even coming out on CNN now. The last mainstream media, we had a doctor say that it doesn't work. I just don't understand how long this is going to go on. On MSN, a doctor said that the masks are hothouses for bacteria, yeast, and fungus. So all day long, our little children are being forced to breathe bacteria, yeast, and fungus. If that's not child abuse, I don't know what is. And we're reasonable people. If we could see scientific evidence, consistent scientific evidence, then we would consider it, but we're not. As the last lady said, we're not getting the scientific evidence. And I just don't understand how you cannot stand up for the kids. How can you have them every day go to school, breathing the waste, breathing their filth? Can you not stand up to the health department? Can you not take another route? Instead of saying, oh, we're helpless, you're supposed to protect the children. comes from a political family, and we know what that usually involves. What if he said, oh, a new study by Boston University and Yale, funded by Big Pharma, says that wearing a clove of garlic around your neck will protect you from COVID, and the CDC reverses decades of proof that garlic doesn't stop disease? And are we going to go along with that? When does it end? When do we step up? Are you compromised by fear? What is it? I hope that we can grasp on and step up and use common sense to help our children.
Thank you, Ms. Bridget.
Thank you.
Lance Pearson. Welcome back, Mr. Pearson.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Lance Pearson. I have 4 post-secondary degrees, most of which are in the mathematical sciences. I have a PhD in the hard sciences, and I'm also a healthcare data scientist. So by most standards, I would be considered an expert in this field. Nevertheless, you should believe what I'm going to say based on the facts that I present, not based on any credentials. In the interest of the school board not being seen as bullies expressing their opinion no more valid than anyone else's, I would love for the board to be able to provide a detailed numerical analysis of the actual risk posed by COVID to student health, and if you're going to be reassessing your current policies, what objective standards are you using to do that? Well, ultimately, is it just going to be you making a decision and then saying it was the health department or someone else? Okay. So, some of the facts that I want to present. COVID-19 almost certainly will continue to be of minimal risk to the otherwise healthy kids in the district. The board's hysteria and fear-mongering, by pushing universal mandates is totally unjustifiable by the actual risks. The CDC itself states that 361 people under 18 have died with COVID, and 3 or fewer of those have been kids from Kentucky. They don't provide the exact number, but it's certainly less than 3. So they also have said in their own data that they think that 46% of those deaths were people that entered the hospital without COVID-related symptoms. So, in short, roughly 194 kids in the United States have died from COVID total. That's out of a population of 74.6 million people based on the last census. And what that ultimately means is the chance of a person under 18 dying from COVID in a given year is no more than 1 in 573,846. The CDC estimates the chances of a person getting hit by lightning in a given year is 1 in 500,000. So it is more likely that a student will be hit by lightning than die from COVID. Okay. Now, if we assume that the COVID mandates by the board are based on reason and rationality, so much so that it justifies ripping those decisions about child safety from the parents and imposing a one-size-fits-all universal masking policy for 8 hours a day on little kids, contact tracing, and then quarantining healthy kids, how about some far more serious threats to child health? During that period where 194 kids died from COVID, 53,000 kids have died from other reasons. That's 273 times as likely to die from non-COVID causes than COVID.
Dr. Pearson, I apologize, but we're out of time.
Oh, that was a very fast 3 minutes.
I know. Feel free to send us what additional information you'd like.
I did send it. There's 39 references to scientific studies, and I welcome you to read those.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Rutherford?
She had to leave. Can I read her speech on her behalf?
Technically, you cannot, but I know that I will be criticized for that, so come on down.
Perfect. Okay, so Dr. Molly Rutherford had these questions. Here are some questions I encourage you to ask of your health department, your government, your employer, your school board, your doctor, and your friend. Why are we ignoring natural immunity of COVID? We have data from Israel and from the Cleveland Clinic demonstrating robust, long-lasting immunity after recovery from COVID. A local hospital CEO, when questioned about reinfection, informed me that out of over 40,000 positive COVID tests since the beginning of the pandemic, less than 100 were reinfections. Yet kids who have recovered from COVID and whose parents understandably don't want to give them a vaccine, they do not need, are still being required to quarantine. Are we collecting data in OC on this? Question number 2, how do we explain the data emerging from adjacent areas of the country with different mandates showing essentially identical epidemic curves? For example, when districts of Georgia and Florida with mask mandates were studied alongside school districts with optional masking, there is no clear significant difference, I'm sorry, that was counties. There is no clear significant difference in rate of transmission. A study of 90,000 students in Georgia found no benefit of mask mandates in elementary schools. Why are we mandating in schools? Why are we mandating masks in schools among very young children when school in the UK and several other countries are refraining from mandating masks in schools? Even with the Delta variant, why is the CDC pointing to inability to vaccinate kids under 12 as a reason to make kids wear masks, even when they've been shown not to be helpful, especially when they are when they have admitted that vaccinated people can still get infected and spread the virus? Why are we attempting to contact tracing at all, when for decades we have known that contact tracing a respiratory virus once it is endemic is futile? Why are we quarantining asymptomatic people, which is unprecedented, and when we know that in the case of COVID, asymptomatic people are not big drivers of outbreaks? And again, why quarantine an exposed student when they've already recovered from COVID? Why doesn't our health department focus on overall public health, which includes negative consequences from the response of this pandemic? When will our government and our public health entities trust that we can handle the truth about this virus, which is, this virus is a new coronavirus that appears to be evolving like other coronaviruses. It's not going anywhere, and it will be with us for a long time, maybe forever. Children are still at a very low risk of severe illness and death with this new virus compared to older people. There are very clear risk factors for severe COVID, including advanced age, severe vitamin D deficiency, obesity, and poor metabolic health.
Yes, and I've got to call time, but nicely done. Thank you. Teresa DeLu. Anybody know somebody? DeLu, I'm going to assume that she had to leave. Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to move on. Micah Kane. Micah Kane. No Micah Kane. How about Justin Tillery? Mr. Tillery, how's your bus driver training going?
It's a good topic of discussion.
I'm dying to hear. Welcome, Mr. Tillery.
So I may be the only one bringing this topic up. So just a couple things. I wasn't quite prepared to speak, but I'm glad to see you allowed me to speak. So I have one daughter in the system. Sorry, I have one daughter in the school system. I've heard a lot of friends, neighbors, everybody complain about buses, etc. So I've taken it upon myself to better understand the problem. So I'm new to the district. We moved here in 2017. So I think there are a lot of bigger problems that everybody's talking about. This is my first time to come to one of these meetings, so this has brought me out to get more involved in the system. I just wanted to speak to reiterate and tell you all, I completely understand what you all are dealing with. You have a lot of challenges in front of you. So rather than complain and try to be part of the problem, I wanted to be part of the solution. It is very difficult. It's a lengthy process to become a bus driver. I think the rate is $16 an hour. I don't think anybody up here in front of me nor myself can survive off $16 an hour. So it's certainly a challenge. I would just encourage you to relook at and I'll be working on investigating and better understanding the solution. But I did go ahead and apply and in the process understand we need substitute teachers as well to support the district.
Wow.
So I have also just got my license emergency license to teach, so you may be seeing me in your school. So I would encourage you to approach me. I look forward to understanding more about what's happening in the classroom. I do have a college education, a business minor, so again, but I'm not a teacher. So I do look forward to contributing and better understanding and being part of the solution. So really, that's all I had to say. But the bus driver is not going to work out, I don't think, because of the 6-week time frame to do that and the CDL license and everything else. So for those of you all and the bus drivers that are out there, thank you, because it is a tough process to go through.
I was so hopeful, but thank you for being a part of the solutions. Last person wishing to speak is Brett Cornell. Anybody here by that name? All right.
Circle back.
Then, was there somebody else? Teresa, did you rejoin us? Okay. I might have skipped, did I skip Micah Kane? I think he was not here also. All right. Well, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I appreciate everybody taking time to share their thoughts and concerns, references. We are mindful of all the information that's out there. It's not that we are hiding our heads in the sand. And I just have to applaud this board for being so diligent in trying to assess where we need to fall in this tough subject.
That's
Teresa? Awesome, but you've been MIA, you signed in to speak. Do you still want to speak? At any rate, we thank you all for being here. This is a great board. They're doing everything they can to make the best decisions possible for 12,000 students and almost 3,000 staff members. And I hope that you will recognize that and respect them for that. Dr. Radford, anything to add?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Dodson.
I think she wants to speak. Do you want to speak, Teresa?
All right.
Talking about my son's behavior therapist. Hi, I'm Teresa. Thanks again. I know all of you know that we just want the freedom to choose for our kids. All of you know that. It's no big deal. I mean, and I think we're upset because nobody has been to any of my daughter or sons or my other son's doctor's appointments, and all of a sudden, that right's jerked out of you. And it doesn't feel good. And you just hate having your child do something when you know it's not good for them. And I worry about our kids' psychological, their health, their anxiety. I mean, we were at the fair. Fine, everybody doing fine, playing with each other, playing at the fair, and they go back to school, and it's like they're going to die or something. And that's no way for a school to be. It needs to be where kids feel safe, and wearing a mask thinking you're going to get someone sick every day is not a good thing. It's especially hard on the special needs children. I couldn't imagine having a child that reads lips go through this. Absolutely insane. But according to 3,200 back in 17 children died. Want to know what they died of? Is abortions. So people have a right to kill their children, but we don't have a right to say, no, we don't want that dirty mask on our kids. We want to see their faces. And you guys, there is, and I ask you, there is something you guys can do to protect our children. There's got to be. We don't want to take anybody's rights away. Wear a mask, I don't care, but we want the choice to do what's right. And no one has any reason to take that away from us. We're not unfit parents. No one came knocking on my door and said, you're unfit, put a mask on your child. And I will tell you, to this day, my son has never worn a mask, and he never will. He had to wear the shield, which was against my thing too, because they're about as effective as the masks are. And any professional tells you that mask, it protects you from COVID, have them put it in writing and notarize it. Because the N95s is the only thing I wore around COVID patients. I have a niece that had a liver transplant. My sister's like, we got to quarantine her. I'm like, what? How are you going to quarantine her and keep her safe? You're never going to go out of your house. You're never going to let anybody come in. You're never going to let her touch anything. She sends her kids out. She wears a mask almost never because they don't work unless you put an N95 on, and you can't live in those things. They are suffocating. So guys, please, if you can do anything, I'm worried about our kids, and not from COVID. Just please do all you can. This is America. We have choices. If you can have a choice to kill your baby, we should have a choice to not put a mask on our kid's face. Okay? Please, please.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could say just a few things. Several of you I've spoken with, or our board has, and greatly appreciate and respect not just your thoughts, your views, but your position about masks. A couple of points I want to make. Masks, and talking with our community, there are several that I've spoken with, such as you fine folks, who feel strongly about we need to have choice. And there are others that feel just as strong on the other side. Yes, I hear you. I hear you. But the mask or no mask, we have been advocating very hard about the quarantine process that we're required to follow. That's very concerned. The masks are choice, right? But quarantine is also just let me finish, please. Quarantine is also a concern. I'll frame it this way. And I understand that, and I hear, and several of you have said to me, we want you to stand up and advocate for our kids. I hear that. We hear that. Our board team hears that. I'll frame it this way, that you remember 6 weeks ago in Oldham County, we had a bat issue, that bats and rabies. Do you all recall that? It was in the Oldham era. And I've said this to our state legislators, okay? If public education would not go at any point in time ever, should they, go to public health and say, please write a policy and create a process for how public education would provide intervention to kids who cannot read. Nor should public health ever come to public ed and say, please create a process and a practice of how we would take care of bats who have rabies. That is currently one big crux of where we currently are. And I certainly understand and respect about advocating for students. So we certainly want to do everything that we can. And I will tell you that I've said this to many parents. Please contact state legislators as well. Now, I would like to share one piece about the Kentucky Supreme Court in the superintendent report that I read. The governor declined, canceled, whichever word you want to say. He canceled his executive order earlier, rescinded. On the website it said, I think I also saw canceled, but yes, rescinded his executive order the State Board of Education has passed that emergency regulation. And so it has been said to every superintendent in every school district that that emergency regulation is as good as law. And so then I'm being as honest and transparent as I can be. However, I certainly hear you, and we hear you, but that has been, and so it creates quite a challenge. However, we continue to advocate. For example, I've had several parents I met with last week, a couple of different days, just groups, a small group of parents that said, hey, I would like to talk to you. So we've taken those questions and those concerns. I've shared those with public health. We continue to do that to be able to, because we want our students in school. And I know you all are advocating that you want choice. The other big piece is, even if this goes away, the quarantine requirements, because there's certainly the purpose of that is to mitigate the spread, right? But then the other piece there is that we have students that are home that are not sick. And so we certainly want to do everything we can to stay open. Our board and our board team greatly respect your position on this very, very hard, tough situation, and we're going to continue. Some parents have asked about House Bill 1 that does provide some, so that Kentucky Supreme Court ruling opens a possible door, so we're going to look into that. But we're going to continue. But I would just ask you as parents that are advocating, and we respectfully respect you advocating, that we're also doing that as well. I know that we've not said publicly, hey, the governor, some superintendents have called the governor names publicly. We haven't done that. But we are advocating for what, and we certainly appreciate and respect your opinions. I would just humbly say that our board and our board team and our district, we are not, you all are not the enemy, and neither are we. However, we're advocating very hard for giving us the ability to be able to make decisions locally. The quarantine is a big concern. It's a big concern across the board for several different reasons. So I hope that helps. We're not giving you the answers. The last thing I want to say, we've been here for quite a while, is board meetings are not designed for our board team, are not designed for two-way conversation. So sometimes that can create frustration, and that's not our intent. Never is. But we certainly respect you have to have a voice. And the last thing I'll say is, some parents have said to me, Jason, or to our board members, we want to have a voice. We want to be heard, because we don't feel like that we can do that on social media because of what's happening across our country, and certainly we get that, right? I would also just say that we have a very special county and a very special community, and we can advocate. So I have some particular ideas. We need to try to how we can maneuver and try to do the very best that we can. So we're very open, and we will listen. I will listen to you. Our board will listen. We've received countless emails, and certainly we want to do that. But I would just humbly say we recognize that you all are not the enemy, and neither are we. We have something in common. We want the best for our students, not just education, but from the whole child perspective. And we greatly appreciate and respect that. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Radford. Mr. Kehoe.
Yeah, Dr. Radford, could you explain to the audience what ramifications we may face if we go against this decision? Or could you have Ann possibly talk to us about, or talk to the audience about that?
Sure.
There's some confusion there.
Okay.
So
sure.
It's not that we don't want to do some things, our hands are tied for the most part.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll let, just a minute, sir. What Mr. Kehoe is referring to is not something that we have really made public. I've gotten several questions. Our board members have. The executive order, as an example. I know that the governor rescinded the executive order, all right? But when the executive order, I'll get to that, I know it's been rescinded, but when the executive order came through, the circulation amongst school districts was that, and what we were told is that state trooper without warrant could come and arrest superintendent and/or board members without warrant. I'm sorry. I didn't hear. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So, yes.
Please.
So the other piece with the emergency regulation that the Kentucky State Board of Education passed is that they can pull professional certificates. That's what the commissioner said on the call. So the approach, what I'm trying to really subtly say to you all is that even though that has been said, and that is the case, but I've seen that in writing, I've heard that from, we still continue to advocate. But I do not know that it helps. You all need to hear that. I know you all only represent a small portion of our community, but we continue to advocate for what is best.
So stand up for tyranny and we'll fund your bail and we'll get
So I appreciate that. So I think we've been here for quite a while. Sir, if I could I answer your question? The board meeting is just not a time for two-way conversation. So could I answer your question afterwards, if I could, respectfully?
Then it wouldn't be as bad. If nobody heard it, it wouldn't be bad.
Well, if
We're just wasting our time.
okay.
I don't think we are. We honor the public expression, period. And if you will reach out to us after the meeting, we'll be happy to engage with you. Any other board members have anything they want to add? Then I think this concludes this board meeting. And Dr. Larry.
Universal mask policy before either the regulation or the governor's decision was made. So don't let them hide behind that.
We're not.
Sign this petition on Joyce. She needs to be removed. She needs to resign.
Can we adjourn?
We've only got 400 pictures so far. We need 500 to get this thing going. Let's go, guys.
Okay. What's your recommendation, Dr. Radford?
I recommend that we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, made by Ms. Hunley, seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor, 4-0. Thanks, everybody.